Hello friends, how are you doing today? Ooh, hello Merlin. My cat is being very sweet. Hello everybody. We're doing a little bit of a different camera angle today. I'm trying to figure out where it fits best in the space until I'm happy with it. I am still sick, but I am less sick than I was yesterday. It's mostly, we're down to kind of stuffy nose, which isn't the worst thing in the world. We'll live. We'll live. Obviously all kinds of crazy shit has continued to happen. I know today there is an Ice Out protest, especially in Minnesota, so if you're in the area, I think there's a general strike on, don't go to shops and stuff like that, if you can help it. Try not to cross the picket line, but obviously, I'm not sure how widespread that is. Check your local area if there are protests. Oh, see, there's that proof. I figured today, I'm just gonna go over a couple of videos I wanted to watch for research, take some notes, kind of hang out with y'all. Hey, Nyla. I've been taking so many notes. I have like a whole book of notes now. My recent fascination has been the idea of the patriarchal bargain. Weekend of the Ice Hell. Yeah, it's like polar vortex season now, right? That's crazy. I'm so glad I live in California now. I don't have to worry about that, but it's still rainy and not very, like, it's been rainy and kind of cold for, like, relatively cold. Talk nerdy to you. I have all kinds of, I'm just watching videos and taking notes and things now. I try to make it a habit of mine to write down the things I'm thinking about stuff. Yeah, right now my fascination is on, like, queer people and the patriarchal bargain. I think that, I mean, we've probably heard of the patriarchal bargain in that, like, women make a deal, quote unquote, with the patriarchy, with patriarchal power in order to preserve, like, status and safety. Essentially it's the idea that, like, women are necessary for a patriarchy to exist, so they need to be, like, they're there to help sell it to other people, especially other women. And by doing that, by advocating for the rights being taken away from women, they believe that they are buying themselves some exemption from that. And I think that, like, conservative queers and then, like, LGBT without the T crowd, basically anybody who's, like, a gender-critical liberal or a gender-critical queer, especially gender-critical trans people, which is fucking wild to me. I think they're all kind of doing the same thing. They're basically saying, well, I'm not one of those degenerates, so I should get some exemption from, but if I advocate for it loud enough, then when they come for all of the queers, they're not going to come for me. Which is not true, obviously. It's widely been shown not to be true. I think I've spoken about Marjorie Taylor Greene recently a bunch, but I mean, look at what happened with her. As soon as she went against the regime, she immediately got eaten alive by all of her quote-unquote fans. Because she wasn't useful to them anymore. She separated herself from her proximity to power. It's the reason that, like, we can see people turning so hard on somebody like Renee Good, who was shot again 3 times in the face by ICE agents. First they came, etc. Yeah, exactly. By standing against power, by choosing to, like, go against them, it doesn't matter if you're part of their in-group anymore. You've already separated your, like, proximity to whiteness. You've severed your, like, you can tap dance on the line your entire life. You can play the tightrope game of, you know, not like one of them, but as soon as you go against it even a little bit, they're gonna eat you alive, because they don't like you. They hate you. They hate everything about you, Like, the patriarchy is never going to support a woman. Women are supposed to be lesser than men. So they're never going to actually respect you. You're just useful to them right now. Right, they need a scapegoat. It's a fascist thing. It's the idea that fascism is a death cult. You need a scapegoat in order to keep people focused on something. So, but it's good to see everybody. I know that, like, it's kind of frustrating to talk about all this stuff, but it is things that, like, keep me engaged. I'm very interested in that. I wanted to bring up an article. I was doing, a bunch of research. 'Tis Your Life as well. Yeah, absolutely. I'm like nose deep in this stuff all the time. I'm really interested in like how all of this stuff affects how people think, which maybe is like bad for my mental health sometimes, but I know there are people that trust me to like be informed about this stuff, so I try to make sure that I'm being responsible with it and have my head in the right place when it comes to all of these things. Right, I want to bring up an ACLU article. ACLU being the American Civil Liberties Union. In actuality, every single one of them is the exact type to drop everything and kill the people they're standing shoulder to shoulder with, but don't notice it because of the bright red target signs being waved in front of them. Absolutely. It's the, Matador waving the red flag, right? As long as there's a Matador, the bull will be able to be focused on that, but as soon as, you know, as soon as there's not something bright and flashing in front of them, they're gonna start devouring their own. They're selling us individualism, they're selling us, like, when I say they, I mean the elites in power, not the they that people talk about. Don't let go of the tiger's tail, for sure. Not the they that conservatives are talking about, which is just the Jews, but, you know, they as in, like, rich people with power. I'm sure some of whom, like, happen to be Jewish, but that doesn't have anything to do with it. It's the obsession with, like, identity. And that it's so ironic to me because they accuse leftists of identity politics and all that stuff, but that's really what they're interested in, is identity. They care that you are the right identity, and that if you care about an identity that's not in their in-group, then, well, you're doing identity politics. You're doing out-grouping. You're doing whatever. I think it's really funny. Yeah, there is infighting. The people that are like way too racist against Jewish people are mad that some of them are, like, the elites are siding with Israel because they need to in order to maintain their colonialist regime. Because Israel is a massive colonialist project and also a fundamentalist Christian project, because fundamentalist Christians believe that the apocalypse won't start until all of the Jews are congregated in Israel, and since Christianity has always been an apocalypse cult, they are trying to again to start it. It's awesome. It's awesome. Bro, I wish Deepak Chopra was the craziest ideology out there, but it's so not. Which is a shame. Alright. I'm gonna read through this ACLU article talking about patriarchal bargaining and the idea that trans rights are women's rights, and the two are irrefutably connected. Is this gonna get me? Yeah, it gets all the stuff on the page. I just wanted to make sure. So this is from March 2023, so it's a little old, but I wanted to read. I think it was still functionally, it was important. It's an equal rights movement. It's the idea that until women are liberated, no one will be liberated, right? women have historically been an underclass. It's part of why transphobes are so against trans women, because they are insulting masculinity by choosing to turn on it, quote unquote, and become women, which is the worst thing that a fucking misogynist can think of, is to become more like a woman. March is Women's History Month, which means I'm often asked to name the most pressing issue facing women in America. Answers spring to mind, sometimes faster than I can form the words. The fall of Roe and the black maternal mortality crisis, the persistence of the gender wage gap and the on-the-job sexual harassment, more than 5 years after Me Too, barrier to safe, affordable housing, policing of black and brown mothers leading to needless family separation, the lack of universal paid family leave coupled with the skyrocketing cost of childcare. The list goes on. None of these ills, however, is the subject of so-called Women's Bill of Rights laws being introduced in a growing list of states, including Kansas, Arizona, South Carolina, Oklahoma, and Montana. Instead, this legislation would create a legal definition of womanhood based on the capacity to produce ova, or human eggs. This definition of woman, which is gerrymandered to exclude trans women and girls, would then apply throughout state law, and could make it impossible for trans people to live openly at work, at school, or anywhere in the states they call home. Limiting freedom for trans people worsens conditions for all women by re-entrenching the very gender stereotypes that have underpinned centuries of women's oppression. Turn down the audio just a little bit. That should set off alarm bells for all of us, not just those engaged directly in the struggle for LGBTQ rights. The Women's Bill of Rights is only a sliver of the cruel campaign to deny basic rights to trans people currently underway across the country. And despite its misleading label, it shares a through line with a long and ugly history of gender-based subjugation in the name of biology. For centuries, laws and policies premised on women's biological capacities and a delicate nature were used to shut women out of educational, economic, and civic opportunities. On these grounds, the US Supreme Court upheld laws barring women from becoming attorneys, or bartenders. Similarly, biological arguments were used to exclude black women from the fairer sex, in order to justify extraction of black women's labor under the institution of slavery and beyond. As feminists, we reject efforts to appropriate the rhetoric of women's rights to inflict life-threatening harm on trans people, men or women. Attacking trans people does nothing to address the real problem women face. To the contrary, limiting freedom for trans people worsens conditions for all women by re-entrenching the very gender stereotypes that have underpinned centuries of women's oppression, and that the ACLU Women's Rights Project has worked for more than half a century to dismantle. After all, the very notion that a person should identify with the sex they were assigned at birth for their entire life is a stereotype, as the more than 1.5 million trans people living in the United States attest to every day. Formed in 1972, the Women's Rights Project, earliest cases, focused on establishing rigorous judicial review of laws that classified people on gender lines, often based on long-held stereotypes about men's and women's capacities, and without regard to individual abilities, needs, and wants. That work, led by Ruth Bader Ginsburg for the ACLU, included challenging a probate rule that preferred men to women based on the stereotype that any man is more capable of settling an estate than every woman, a housing allowance offered to servicemen, but not servicewomen, based on the stereotype that men should be the primary breadwinners, and an income tax deduction available to women, but not men, based on the stereotype that only women should be caregivers. The plaintiffs in these cases included men as well as women. What they had in common was that each defied gender stereotypes out of desire or necessity, and all fought to live fully and authentically without laws and policies that constrained them based on gender or their ability to bear children. To live openly as transgender is to seek the same freedom. Not only is there no conflict between demanding rights for women and for all transgender people, advances— excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze. That one snuck up on me, baby. Woo! Not only is there no conflict between demanding rights for women and for all transgender people, advances in trans rights hold a specific promise for women's liberation. By tearing down laws and policies based on gender stereotypes, we can create the opportunity for each of us to determine our own life story. That's why the Women's Rights Project strives to represent people of all genders, transgender, non-binary, and cisgender, who face barriers based on their sex. Today's avalanche of attacks on trans people, with over 400 anti-LGBTQ bills introduced in state legislatures in 2023 so far, and it's way more now, makes it plain that the gender discrimination of the past is all too present today. Defending trans people is not only a moral duty for the feminist movement, it is central to it. Absolutely. I mean, we see now, with all of these, like, bathroom bans coming back into effect and things like that, with all of the policing of trans people, the people that are disproportionately affected are cis people who are gender non-conforming. If you, like, you don't even have to be trans to be affected by this. You just have to kind of not match whatever some fucking bigot thinks that a woman is supposed to look like or a man is supposed to look like. You are going to be affected by these things whether you like it or not. Especially women are affected by anti-trans laws because, again, if they can dictate what a trans person can do with their body legally, then they can do the same thing to any woman. Like, what is, like, genuinely there's not a difference other than that they're cis. Working on a story about a 6'5" cis model being harassed in public toilets. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's fucking crazy. Like, you see this happen, especially, I think, to butch people, to tall women. I genuinely think it would be really funny to run a line of shirts or something that just says not trans, just ugly. Or, like, not cis, just ugly. I don't know, whatever. Just to fuck with them. Yeah. No, all of these things, it's all going to disproportionately affect cis people. Because there just aren't that many trans people in general. We're not that common. There are places where we're more common because we tend to congregate together because, like, we like support networks, believe it or not, and we like society of people that are like-minded. Just like any group of people. But genuinely, it's not like that common to run into a trans person. Alright, I wanna, now we've gone over this article. I wanna pull up a recent Happy Pancake video. I really like Scully's stuff, so let's watch her talk about why MAGA women have an expiration date. It's the same, and I think this is, like, it talks about the patriarchal bargain. It's the same idea. Alright, before we start this, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna toss these, and I'll come back around. So, like, 5 minutes. I'll be right back.
welcome.
Hello, hello. I am back. Sorry about that. Hey. Howdy, Maxi. Alright. We are back. Sorry about that. Like I said, I'm still sick, so I'm gonna have to make runs off to like blow my nose and take care of stuff, just because Concrud has really knocked me upside the head. But I'm trying to be productive regardless. Like I said, I've been taking notes and stuff. I'm actually pulling my notebook out. I do hope everybody's having a good Friday. Even with the polar vortex coming up, for those of you that are in its path, stay inside, stay warm, take care of yourselves this weekend. You know, don't get up to anything too crazy. I'm probably gonna be going live again tomorrow. I've been playing through Life of P, or Lies of P. Life of Pi is a completely different thing. It's okay. I know that you've been fucking busy though. You got tons of stuff going on. Sometimes real life gets in the way of like job. Lies of PP. The time I called Rand PP Prince. It's like I'm a fucking moron. Oh god. It really, I am on the out of like getting sick, right? It has been, we've gotten through the worst of it, but now we have to deal with the several days of like my sinuses still being stuffy. Alright. I'm gonna turn this music off for now. So that we can hear Scully.
With movements that are so dedicated to taking their rights away? And why do conservative movements need them so badly? These MAGA women are not anomalies. They're not special or new. They're not unique. In fact, they are perfectly boring, perfectly conformist, and perfectly predictable. They're not breaking the mold. They're not challenging the system. They are the system. Always have been, always will be, babe.
It always has been, always will be.
In fact, this has happened so often throughout history that this concept has been studied and named. It's called patriarchal bargaining.
There, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Movements that take away their own rights because they think they will be exempt from the most grievous consequences. Spoiler, they usually aren't. But what they don't reckon with is that all conservative women, especially those in politics, always have an expiration date. And that's what we're talking about today. Hello, ladies, men, and non-binary friends. Welcome back. I've been wanting to talk about this topic for a while now, and it just becomes more and more relevant every day. We're going to be a little studious today, so grab your notebooks and your history books. We're going to be learning today, my babies, because history is very clear about one thing.
It's really funny this video came out like 5 days ago. I was already like rotating this concept in my head. And this put a name to it that I'd heard patriarchal bargaining, but it was nice to, I actually watched this, I think, on the flight back home from Annie. I always, whenever I'm going on a flight, I download a fuck ton of videos to just listen to and try to absorb and take notes on. And that's kind of been my vibe lately.
It always repeats itself, and fascism and authoritarian movements never reward women long-term for loyalty. They use them, they sideline them, and then they discard them. Today we're going to be talking about why women, particularly white women, align with these movements. Ignore the nails. I haven't had time to repaint them, okay? I don't want to be hearing it in the comments, okay? Just ignore them. And the historical pattern of women supporting authoritarian systems. And, of course, the consequences of that. And I'll be giving you, as usual, cold hard facts. I may not be nice, but I will never tell you a lie. Let's get into it. Now, to understand this phenomenon, we need to understand patriarchal bargaining. The term patriarchal bargain describes the strategies women employ to gain a greater degree of security and autonomy within the bounds of their sex-based oppression. Different forms of patriarchal oppression necessitate tailored patriarchal bargains. Thus, the concept can be used to reveal the particular dimensions of patriarchy in its various modalities across societies and cultures.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, as the idea that like a trans woman is a woman, right? I mean, like societally, that is the case. You'll hear transphobes bitch and whine about it, but that is the reality of the situation. Is that trans women do fit the qualifiers in the category of what makes a woman, at least in society, and trans women, like, I mean, the most obvious example I can think of is somebody like Blair White, who are willing to sell out their community, who are willing to engage with the patriarchal powers that be and be like, well, I'm, this, I am, I'm not really a woman or whatever, and just like basically sell off their own, sell off their own rights with the idea that when they come for the gays, I won't be on that list because I was one of the good ones. I think really truly that is the essence of the patriarchal bargain. And they are women that are engaging in the patriarchal bargain.
The term was coined by Turkish author and researcher Denise Candioti in her article Bargaining with Patriarchy, which appeared in September 1988 issue of Gender and Society.
I do suggest that you go out and actually read the article. I got my hands on a copy and I've been working my way through it. Very insightful. Obviously, I don't necessarily think that we should dedicate schools of thought to a person's name. That is a personal thing, right? Obviously, all that. But I think it's important to know where, like, this concept has come from. Katie! I was using your art for the for the call to action today.
Sociologist Lisa Wade states that patriarchal bargain is, quote, an individual strategy designed to manipulate the system to one's best advantage, but one that leaves the system itself intact.
Women like Caroline Levitt and Erica Kirk will always choose their race over their gender. Because while patriarchy suppresses women, white supremacy protects and uplifts white women. And in every era of American history, white women have been rewarded more.
Yeah, I think that Maxie's making a good point there. I mean, if you've ever heard of the leopard, I'm gonna actually zoom in just a little bit. Oh, wow, it's too much. There's the whole leopards eating my face thing. If you go to our leopards ate my face or whatever, it's talking about this concept of people being like, oh, well, they won't come for me. I'm one of the good ones. And it's the same thing. It's the same deal. That, like, you're selling yourself on this concept of, well, the leopards won't eat my face. Like, I just think that's a very silly and genuinely dangerous deal to make for anything. You really should not be selling out people in your group. Like, people that are in your community that are openly accepting of you, to then turn on them because you don't like them. I think some of the notes that I have written in here, because I was talking about like conservative gays, and that most of the conservative gays are like gay men. But I think conservative queers have like these opinions about modern queer culture that allow them to like look down on and show disgust for other queer people for living a life that they don't personally agree with. And I think that's fucked up, obviously. I think that we shouldn't like judge other people for the way that they choose to live their lives, even if we don't necessarily like it. Sorry, my vertical was just showing not my face. And then like obviously disgust and shame are like fascist emotions that are meant, maybe not, that's not obvious, but I think there's a good case for the idea that like disgust and shame are both emotions that lead to uh fascist outcomes. They are tools that are used to oppress because they keep you in line. If you are disgusted with people, if you, in the way that they're carrying themselves, the way that they're, you are more willing to, that doesn't mean it's a dehumanization, right? You're more willing to strip them of their humanity in your eyes. And I mean, that's where you see gays being like, well, I like men, but I don't think that you should go to like pride parades and not wear any clothes or like do kink. I think truly like the anti-kink crowd too, I think is very unfortunately anti-liberation, because it is the idea that you have to engage a certain way and that certain ways of engaging in sexual pleasure are shameful, which is just an extension of purity culture. And while like kink can be used by as a shield by abusers, when used responsibly, it's insanely like liberating. Oh my goodness, excuse me. Oh yeah, no, absolutely, AD, you're so right. They are so ready to be triggered snowflakes. It's the age old every accusation a confession, right?
more for racial loyalty than gender loyalty because of white supremacy. For example, white suffragettes argued that white women deserve the vote before black men, and a lot of suffrage organizations banned black women to avoid upsetting white male politicians. And while white women got the right to vote in 1920, black women did not get the right to vote until 1965 with the Voting Rights Act. Over the past few days, I've talked a lot about patriarchal bargaining. And while we all engage in some forms of patriarchal bargaining, I even mentioned how putting on makeup can be seen as a form of patriarchal bargaining. I want to be clear that we cannot talk about patriarchy without talking about white supremacy. Patriarchy and white supremacy are not separate systems. They actively play off each other and reinforce one another.
And historically, this has looked a lot like it does now, aligning with powerful men, enforcing gender norms onto other women, and accepting those reduced rights, or just the perception of those reduced rights, in exchange for your own protection and authority. And we've seen this with a lot of MAGA rhetoric and MAGA figures, selling this idea of returning to traditional family values and morality, which, by the way, is the exact same rhetoric that the Nazis used. Isn't that fun? And
I think it's incredible. It's a good thing to remember that the new slogan that the MAGA party is using, America First, I believe originated with the Klansmen, with the Ku Klux Klan. So that's weird. But also, like, all of this is, I mean, like she said, it's this idea of like they're trying to sell us a return to a traditional family. It's eroding our values, eroding our morality. This is all like, it's all purity culture shit. It's wild that all these changes in policy to support more rights for all wasn't that long ago. The people that are currently in office were in their 20s when these changes were put in place, right? Like, I mean, not for nothing, but our president grew up before the Voting Rights Act, before the riots and protests of the 60s that got a majority of black people their rights. Like, this is not that, like, we like to pretend, and I think it's really easy, especially for queer people that have never really been affected by their queerness. People that have lived in places where it was never a really big deal that they liked people of the same sex. It was never a really big deal to them. They can't understand why someone would want to make it their whole identity, quote unquote. And it's easy to buy the idea that like homophobia and racism have been defeated and they are things that are in the past, but they are genuinely not. Not just because the people that are still, there are still people alive today who participated in this stuff and were alive for these systems of oppression, but the systems of oppression were never truly dismantled. I mean, there are still anti-sodomy laws on the books in lots of states. Just because they're not enforced doesn't mean they're not there. And I think that that's really scary. Maxie said, something that also bothers me a lot as well is lateral ableism. And it's sort of the same thing where people will describe themselves specifically as Asperger's because they are one of the good autistic people and they want to just throw every single autistic person under the bus who chose not to dehumanize themselves simply to gain the cookie points of conservative far right. I mean, especially Asperger's is not actually like diagnosable anymore. It's not a thing. Excuse me. I think as a kid, was diagnosed Asperger's, but like that's just autism spectrum disorder. It's you are on the spectrum, and like that is again a separation that exists to separate yourself from this outgroup that you perceive yourself as not being. Again, you're dehumanizing another group of people. It's the same kind of concept of like what am I trying to say here? Basically advocating for the stripping of rights from people, from yourself, from your own group of people, like a group of people that you belong to, simply because you have a perceived like sense of safety that you have and a sense of power that you have, and by continuing to advocate for this, you can buy this perceived sense of safety because you are useful. But again, this video is, I mean, titled very evocatively, but it is true. Like, you have an expiration date as a useful tool for these people, and once they have their stuff set, like once they've taken away the rights, they're gonna push you back in your box. You are no longer useful as a weapon, so they do not need you anymore. They put you away.
Which, by the way, is the exact same rhetoric that the Nazis used. Isn't that fun? And many conservative women believe that they are the exception, that the consequences of these conservative traditions and values and laws that they are attempting to impose upon all women won't affect them because they are good women. So things like abortion restrictions, anti-trans legislation, deportations. There is some understanding that this will, of course, affect women, but only the bad liberal women. Only the ones that don't perform femininity correctly. And like I said, this is not new. We have seen time and time again how women, in particular white women, have gone against their rights and the rights of other marginalized groups to support fascist regimes. In Nazi Germany, women were essential. They were praised as mothers and homemakers. These gender policies reinforced women's subordination and, of course, publicly glorified the role of reproduction and motherhood and family life. The National Socialist Women's Union and German Women's Agency used Nazi propaganda to encourage women to focus on their roles as wives and mothers. Besides increasing the population, the regime also sought to enhance its, quote, racial purity through, quote, species upgrading, notably by promulgating laws prohibiting marriage between, quote, Aryans and, quote, non-Aryans, while preventing those with handicaps and certain diseases from marrying at all. Girls were taught to embrace the role of mother and obedient wife in school and through compulsory membership in the Nazi League of German Girls.
It's all sex-based. I mean, it is discrimination, right? It's putting you there with women specifically. It's discrimination, but I mean, it affects men too, because I mean, there are men that don't fit into a certain box, right? There are men who don't have interests that align with other, you know, the way that cis heteronormative society makes you think that you want to be, right? I mean, and that's not just queer men. There are cis straight men that just have interests that don't align, or like won't, like, want to be homemakers or want to be nurses or something like that. Like, all of those things are valid to pursue, and to put either sex into a specific box of like a way that you have to be. I mean, you're playing a suckers game. It's the whole. I played a video last time I streamed about the don't be suckers supercut thing. I mean, it's it was a way to warn Americans about like Nazi ideology. And I think it's still very important today. We have like slowly shaved the edges off of the kind of cruelty that they were. I mean, there are people that are in power that are trying to convince you the Nazis weren't so bad. It's crazy. There are people in power that are trying to convince you that a Nazi salute isn't a Nazi salute. Oh god, I bit my fucking lip. Yeah. There's so much eugenics. It's a lot of it is all tied to eugenics and racial purity and all of this idea that like you have to be a certain way. And that's just not, it's not reality, right? And I think especially trans people and disabled people, we threaten that status quo because disabled people demanding rights is just saying that like people, I mean, the only thing that makes you disabled ultimately is that you are not useful to capitalism, right? You have a disability, which means that you have a something about your body that doesn't work the way that doesn't work in a way that will make you a maximally productive worker. And that means that you are disabled and you cannot work in the normal working way. So you can't make money and you need to be supported. And so you're seen as a leech. They look down on you, they treat you as subhuman because you can't work, you can't produce labor. And that is really fucking weird. And it's the same thing with trans people. We challenge these status quo boxes that they want to put the sexes into and show that we threaten by existing this idea that a person is born a certain way and needs to be a certain way and needs to have certain loyalties and interests and desires, and anything outside of that is sinful and wrong.
Which started at the age of 10 years old. Now, make no mistake, when the war ramped up, they needed bodies and workers, so they had to adjust their messaging a little bit. And of course, the obedient little monsters did plenty of killing as well. An incalculable but significant number of women were accomplices and perpetrators of the Holocaust as plunderers, organizers of deportations, and the mass shootings. Some went so far as to commit murder. Under Benito Mussolini, women were encouraged.
I truly think that when MAGA and like fascists in general are done and feel like they've lost the fight against trans people, the next step is to talk about disabled people and how disabled people are leeches on the system. You mentioned useless eaters. I think that like that rhetoric is a lot more widely spread than people think. It's widespread and it's not healthy. These things are really fucking scary. It was a hell of a moment when I learned that them describing leeches wasn't actually about people abusing a system of care, but rather people that literally just need help to live their life regularly. Yeah. No, absolutely. They're saying like it's not people that are abusing the system, it's people that are just using the system. They're considered leeches because again, they're not producing labor anymore. These are people that can't, for some reason or another, produce work and do labor the way that normal quote unquote people can, right? And that's the only thing that separates a disabled person. Like a disability is disabled people are the only like minority group that everyone will be a part of someday, because you will either get hurt or you will age up to a point where you are considered disabled and can no longer produce labor. Those are the two options. I mean, unless you die in like a way that completely preserves your physical health.
To produce children for the state. Shocker. But of course barred from many professions and political positions. The rise of fascism in Italy during the 1920s and 1930s also had a significant impact on women's rights and freedoms.
And fascists want a monopoly on women too, because they need them to increase their population, right? Because a majority of women are the ones that are producing and caring for children. So they need them to buy into this ideology too. The moment trans people as a talking point have been exhausted by conservative media and disabled and autistic people become the focal point of discussion for the far right, we are unbelievably fucked because it's more likely to become disabled than it is to become trans. True. Well, I mean, it's not gonna get, like, I don't know if that's gonna make it worse, right? Because it's already really bad. I don't know if, like, I don't know how much, I guess maybe knock on wood, I don't know how much worse things can get. Because they're already really fucking bad. And, like, yeah, you could say, like, oh, they could just fucking kill us in the streets, but they like, that's just happening. Like, we're kind of at the end game. And I think it's, like, weird that we're not talking about that. Like, this is, like, we're at, like, concentration camps and kidnapping people off the streets and shooting people that disagree with you. And, like, we have like, things are really bad right now.
Fascist regime promoted a vision of women as wives and mothers, emphasizing their role in maintaining the traditional family unit and encouraging them to have large families to support the nation's growth. Women were discouraged from pursuing careers outside.
I think it's also, like, I know I'm pausing the video to talk about side stuff all the time, but you mentioned Tylenol and autism. Excuse me. But, like, that is another way to blame women for a disability thing, right? Like, saying that it is women's fault for taking Tylenol during pregnancy that you're pregnant, like, your child is autistic. It is your fault for giving them medication that you were told to take, or to take medication that you were told to take. Like, your fault. It is pushing that responsibility for something that is not something you can control in any meaningful capacity. You are pushing that responsibility onto women. Yeah, Tylenol is one of the only safe medications to take while pregnant, for sure. Yeah. Because they just want women to be hurting. They want women to feel more pain. I guess. I don't know. I think everybody who says that women don't, like, suffer enough or whatever to, like, deserve all of these whatever, like, anybody who says, like, giving birth isn't that bad, it can't be that bad, I think you should have to push a watermelon out through your asshole. I think it should be legally required that if you make fun of a woman for complaining during pregnancy, you should have to push a whole watermelon out of your asshole. I think that is the only fair way to make you understand. We should have to, like, they should surgically put a watermelon in your asshole that you then have to remove. Without any Tylenol. No Tylenol.
Outside the home and were subjected to strict moral behavioral codes. Initially, fascism in Italy had an ambivalent view on women's position, and Mussolini promised the leader of the fascist women, Elisa Mager Rizzioli, to introduce women's suffrage. However, he only introduced municipal suffrage and then abolished free elections altogether, making also the municipal suffrage meaningless. After an unsuccessful attempt of the—
I think this is another big thing too. Obviously, like, the end goal of fascism is to remove free elections. I think it's important to look at, like, all of these people saying, like, oh, Trump is just joking about not having elections. He's just joking about it. Is that funny? Is it funny to joke that we might dismantle democracy? Oh, we just won't have to have them because, like, everyone will agree. That's what you're saying, that we should take away free and open elections and we should squash dissent, is what I'm hearing.
Fascist women to become autonomous in 1924, they were efficiently deprived of all real political influence within the party. The role of women in fascist ideology was foremost to demonstrate her patriotism and support her country by giving birth to children, which she would raise to become soldiers or mothers who in turn would support expansionism. While girls were not banned from studying, the cost for women students were raised to discourage it. And while women were not banned from working, certain restrictions were introduced to prevent women from being placed in authority over men in the healthy professional life, such as banning women from certain leadership positions in the educational system, which could have given them authority over male colleagues. And of course, in Jim Crow America, white women would uphold racist systems, believing that it would secure their status, while preserving the white patriarchy. In the Jim Crow era, unlike governors or legislators, white women couldn't directly enforce Jim Crow with state power. Unlike the Klan, they generally eschewed direct violence. Their sphere of authority was family, home, and those local spaces considered extensions of the domestic sphere, most notably public schools. Sound familiar? Their work was daily, grassroots, and rarely glamorous. White women were, quote, segregation's constant gardeners. Good white women, and especially good white mothers, married gender roles with a devotion to racial segregation. They had a special obligation to police the color line where public and private life intersected. Midwives classified the race of the babies they helped bring into the world. Public school teachers plucked students suspected of being mixed race from their classrooms. Some educated women nourished the illusion of a more, quote, affectionate segregation in columns containing fond tales of their housemaids and childhood mammies. Authoritarian and nationalist movements weaponize gender roles, promoting women as symbols of virtue and motherhood while restricting their autonomy. And this pattern is not accidental. It is in fact very strategic control. When authoritarian movements use women and value them as symbols, they don't actually have to treat them like citizens or like people. Viewing women as mothers and the reproducers of the nation, it gives women a seemingly elevated position while actually keeping them in subordination.
I was muted, sorry. It is also a removal of a part of their humanity too, right? Like, you can argue that women, like, there is an argument to be said, right? Which I think is a stupid argument, but like some fucking weirdos will argue, oh, women exist to bear children, exist for this, whatever reason, or are the best at it because they are, biologically tuned to care for children, whatever. But to reduce women to just a biological function is to remove part of what makes them a person, because part of being human is all of the other things about you, all of those things that make a person, the things that you're interested in, the things that you like learn about, the experiences that you have. To reduce a person to just a biological function that you can perform is dehumanization.
And of course, if women ever step outside,
it would be like saying that like men only exist to shoot cum. Like, okay, like, yeah, that's a thing you can do, but that's not what men are, right? Men are not just shooting fat ropes all the time, just like women are not just fucking blasting out babies all the time. There's so much other things that make a woman. Canadians get told that it's not your place to talk about American issues. Everyone should be talking about America's issues right now. Like, America's issues are the world's issues, and that's, like, unfortunately true. Like, we are on the global stage dancing around like a bunch of fucking clowns with our mad, dementia-riddled king. And it is frankly irresponsible to not be talking about American issues. In the same way that, like, I have to keep my eye on things that are happening in, like, the UK and in the EU and, like, in Russia and stuff like that, right? Like, these are like places that I need to know about, even if I don't know them as well as I know my own home, like, country's politics, because they don't affect me as much. There are still important things that happen there that will change the course of what goes on in where I live. But even if they don't affect me personally, it's important to know what's happening in the world stage, because, like, these things, all of these things affect each other.
Of that prescribed role, the power system no longer protects her. We're going to talk about Renee Nicole Good. Now, conservatives will coddle white women and use white women's pain to justify their violence and their narrative. But the minute you do not serve their agenda, they will drop you like a goddamn bad habit. And Renee Nicole Good is a perfect example of this. She was a wife. She was a mother. She was a beautiful
I was talking about this with Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's the same thing. I think I even mentioned Renee Nicole Good. She was all of these things that you were supposed to be to guarantee your safety, but she stepped out of line. And because she stepped out of line, they called her a bitch and they shot her in the face 3 times. because she removed her safety. She removed her proximity to the white power, like the white nationalist power that was protecting her. And like, she didn't want that protection, but it is a level of protection that you are offered by choosing to conform a certain way.
Blonde white woman. And the minute Renee Nicole Good did not serve her agenda, they demonized her, calling her a domestic terrorist, even though she was the one who was shot in the fucking face. Quick reminder, being a little sassy to an ICE agent does not mean they are allowed to fucking murder you. With white women, we have very specific systemic advantages because conservatives need white women. They need us to sell their ideals to young, impressionable men. They need us to have their babies. They need us to take care of their homes. And they need us to justify their violence against marginalized groups under the guise of protecting our womanhood or protecting our virtue. She no longer held her safety as a white woman under the patriarchy because she has directly gone against this violent white supremacist system. She lost the privileges that her whiteness previously allowed her to have. She went against the power system that would have supported her. And because of that, MAGA does not view her as a woman worth protecting. Oof, that felt really icky to say out loud.
So you can't be a good white person and put your body in between them trying to kidnap a brown person or harm a black person. When you do that, you lose your proximity to whiteness and you lose the benefits that come along with it. That's the cost. We're all acting so shocked that they murdered a white woman. Well, see, she wasn't a good white. She was out there advocating for brown people, so she lost her proximity to whiteness. This is the work of dismantling white supremacy. This is what it's gonna cost. It's time for some radical acceptance because they've been out there killing black and brown people for hundreds of years. And people who looked like me were having picnics under black bodies as they blew in the breeze after they'd been lynched. And then 6 years ago, when they kneeled on George Floyd's neck, we all put a black picture in our Instagram acting as if that were enough. In order to dismantle white supremacy, we have to be willing to lose the benefits of whiteness. Means they kill us too. That's what that means. That's what it's gonna take to dismantle white supremacy, is losing the benefits of the system. So we can't be so shocked as white people continue to die. Because we weren't this shocked when black and brown people were dying. Because we expected it. Not because we weren't grieving, but we expected it, right? You should expect it. We have to lose the benefits of the system if we want to tear the system down. White supremacy has been killing black and brown folks. And it's not going to go down without a fight.
I think additionally, this like something to speak about there is that you can't let the state hold a monopoly on violence, and that includes violent rhetoric. Right? Like, there is this civility politics issue, and it's why I call myself a scumbag leftist, right? And I know if my mom's listening, she doesn't like me calling myself that, but I think it is an important distinction because I am choosing actively to step myself away from the civility politics that have policed the way that we are allowed to talk about these things. I think it's fucking ridiculous. I think I should be allowed to swear. I think I should be allowed to say to call these fucking monsters out for the shit that they do. I'm not gonna be like fucking bigoted about the things that I'm saying, but I think it is fine to call these people fucking monsters because it is not something about their identity that causes them to be monsters. It is their actions, their choices, the things that they do to other people strip them of their humanity in my eyes. And somebody that is, and this is like a recent story too, but it's like an organization that exists to fucking kidnap people off the streets, who is kidnapping children from schools, who is taking those children to use them as fucking bait to try to arrest and deport their parents. You do not deserve the rights to exist in polite society anymore. And I'm tired of playing around and dancing around civility and saying that, like, oh, you have to engage it in a certain way. You have to do it a certain way. You need to talk about it a certain way. No! Fuck them. That's fucking insane. The things that they are doing are monstrous. That is shit that cartoon villains do. That is shit that Nazis do. And that's not supposed to be what we are. I don't know. It's just, I think it's important. Hydrate, I can do that. Let me throw the video back on. I'm going to grab some water and refill my cup. I definitely do need some water.
Some of y'all have been asking, why would they kill a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman? Well, in essence, that's a nigga lover, quite honestly. A lot of people don't realize that it wasn't just black people that were lynched, especially when we talk about the 1900s, when we talk about the 1800s, whenever. But white people that were too heavily associated with black people were also lynched. This is why John Brown was considered to be a bigger traitor than a Harriet Tubman to some of these people, because white people that are willing to abandon other white people to help Negroes, brown people, Muslim people. She is a threat. She was a threat to them just by being willing to abandon her whiteness.
They don't care if you live or die if it doesn't serve their agenda. Now, I want to touch briefly on the tradwife movement. I've talked about this a lot in previous videos, so I'm not going to be spending too much time on this. Check out my other videos here in the description, but I do want to mention this because this is the fantasy that the Conservative Party tries to sell to people, and it is a fantasy. Stephanie Coontz describes in her book, The Way We Never Were, American Families and the Nostalgia Trap, how the concept of the traditional family has shifted and changed so much.
You're super right. I mean, like, everything that you're saying in chat is so right. You're all really funny. But yeah, like, these are actions, like these are supposed to be things that we recognize as the actions of supervillains, and yet when our government does it, we have to like there are so many people that are ready to swallow the whole boot and gargle the laces. It's insane to me. Like, this is supposed to be the stuff that we stand up to. And I'm glad to see there's been resistance. But so many people are willing to go to bat to defend the actions of these fucking monsters. And it's really frustrating to know that, like, I mean, I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but it's really frustrating to know that, like, members of my family are probably still going to bat for this. And if I tried to talk to them about it, they would tell me to stop listening to fucking CNN. It's just really disappointing. They're too banal to be recognized as super incredible.
Much over the past few centuries and varied greatly across different cultures, classes, etc. And how we can so often—
Well, you're right. Like, I think it's the idea that, oh, don't believe what you see on the internet. Yeah, as if, like, the internet isn't a source of free information that they are desperately trying to crack down on. And that's why you see things like, everyone is talking about social media right now as like, oh, it's hurting kids, and we need to, like, make sure there's age verification on social media to make sure kids don't get on social media, when it really should be, we should be making sure that the things people say on social media meet community guidelines and make sure that we have, like, well-funded moderation. It is, instead, we should just get all of the information of all of these children so that we can surveil them. Or we should, like, you should be able to know exactly who you are. You have to give us your ID, remove all anonymity that the internet offers. Like, they are so trying to crack down on the freedom of information that the internet offers. It has constantly been a source of, though it can very easily be used as a source to spread lies and misinformation, as we have seen, it can do even greater good by allowing for freedom of information to be spread faster and farther than it ever has before. And the barrier to entry for accessing information has never been lower. Like, you are now more likely to easily access infinitely more information than you would have had access to even, like, 100 years ago. Yeah, if they had done something about Facebook 10 years ago. But I still wouldn't say that it would have to be, like, age verification with your fucking government ID. They shouldn't... It's very clearly a way for them to tell... It's a way for people in power to be able to tell who you are and tell you what you can and can't say, and then be able to actively punish you for posting. Which, like, already happens. Like, not for nothing, but I've been banned from airlines because of things that I posted on the internet. And that's, like, crazy. Howdy, howdy.
And look at the past with rose-colored glasses and look fondly on times that maybe weren't so great. And the idea of a 1950s traditional, secure, and happy patriarchal family is built upon this Disney-fied mythological idea.
I think it's so weird. It's so weird to me that the QAnon types stopped posting openly as soon as their international cabal of pedophiles was actually proven to be true. That's so weird.
And not based in historical reality. And the tradwife movement is a direct result of this fantasy, this desire for nostalgia. In a world where most of us have to work multiple jobs and get to be exhausted every day and barely pay our bills, the tradwife movement peddles this fantasy to women that can be tempting. You don't have to work, you can just tend to your home and have babies, and your husband can go out every day and make the money. All you have to do is sacrifice that little bit of autonomy. Yes.
I love
You
her.
don't have to worry about these silly little modern problems. No. And this ideology promises women security, leisure, the noble purpose of raising a family and taking care of a home.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex Jones should be like in prison for the shit that he was able to say. But he is allowed to just be, I mean, again, like this whole freedom of speech thing, right? Is I think that the shit that he said was so harmful that he should have some kind of consequences. But instead he's allowed, like, again, they say cancel culture, and yet fucking all of these people are allowed to go and whine on the biggest audience, on the biggest platforms I've ever fucking seen. And like, the canceling doesn't exist. Like, unless you're some teeny tiny person, canceling is not real. If in fact, for people that are quote unquote canceled, it's often good for their career because they're able to like latch onto the conservative grift. Cancel culture's gone too far. It got Ellen. If it's objective fact that it's not a conspiracy, it's just the news. That's true. Yeah, I can't believe what the modern media says. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's super weird that all of the pedophile hunters have shut the fuck up now that it's super clear that Trump is on the Epstein list. Because again, it's the blinders. They construct the ideological blinders on, and if you even peek a little bit to either side, you will be forced to reckon with reality and the fact that like you have been shamming for a cult for 10 years.
And, most importantly, fulfillment. Now, you and I both know that the tradwives advertising this lifestyle aren't actually tradwives. They are entrepreneurs. They are content creators cosplaying as tradwives. They are hypocrites. Nara Smith, Ballerina Farm, even Erica Kirk, they are the biggest hypocrites. They are advertising a life that they do not have. They are selling an idea that they themselves do not subscribe to. Because if they really believed the bullshit they were spouting, they would be in the kitchen making some bland ass casserole for their 9 children, not doing interviews with CBS, not posting content online, not running businesses, not working as the press secretary, not doing any of this stuff. They are actively participating in roles that their ideology says they should not even be occupying. And for actual tradwives that were sold this fantasy, it is more likely to be a horror story than an actual happily ever after. In one of my recent videos, I talked about how divorce rates in the South are rising and are actually higher than the rest of the country because it's being shown over and over again that this traditional family idea doesn't work. You have women that get married too young and realize that they actually don't have anything in common with their spouse other than maybe like their church. You have tradwives whose husbands leave them for 20-year-olds when they get too old. And these women have no education, no work experience, and are unable to provide for themselves or their multiple children. And the reality of the tradwife movement is that women are actively giving up their financial independence for this fantasy, sacrificing work experience and higher education, any sort of safety net. Some experience domestic abuse because they aren't able to leave. And regardless, they are far more likely to become economically vulnerable. Again, I talk about this a lot in my other video, just watch that, I go way deeper into this. Let's talk about
I do think I want to
weaponizing
watch
white
that.
women tears. White conservative men have used white women's tears to justify their violence for centuries. They can be actively oppressing these women and simultaneously weaponizing their fear and or womanhood to enact tangible violence against minority groups. We see this phenomenon to this day.
I'm gonna tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Mr. Cooper recording with his iPhone after asking the woman to put her dog on a leash in a bird-watching sanctuary.
At some point, she decided that, oh, I'm gonna play the race card, I guess.
Today, prosecutors revealed Miss Cooper made a second 911 call, claiming he tried to assault her.
Being threatened by a man in the Rambo. Please send the cops.
Oh my God. You don't need to fucking flip me off. It's assault. Fuck you. Jesus Christ, you fucking assaulted me. You fucking flip me over those witnesses. She wouldn't move her feet. You fucking flip my feet. You wouldn't move your feet. You were sleeping. You wouldn't move your feet. What? He fucking assaulted me. You wouldn't move. You need to pee.
Please move, ma'am.
I can. Do you live here?
I'll answer that question, excuse me.
I don't like the fact you have your phone in my face.
Okay, I don't like the fact that you're blocking me for where I pay.
All I'm asking is what unit?
But you're not, I don't need to tell you that information.
Why the fuck are you asking?
It's not your building, you're not the owner. You pay rent.
No, I want to know who you're going
It's so fucking crazy. People are so ready to be cops. They're so ready to sell out their own. Like, this is a working class person in the same fucking boat as you, sister. What are you doing? You just because you're racist?
I am.
Why?
Because I would like to know who's friends and why you're here.
Because I live here.
And if you do, then I would like to meet you because you're a neighbor. And
you didn't start off on a good note.
And of course, the most famous and decidedly one of the most brutal and heartbreaking is the story of Emmett Till.
Emmett Till was a 14-year-old boy who was abducted, badly beaten, and killed in Mississippi in August of 1955. Till lived in Chicago, but was visiting family in Mississippi, which was a racially segregated state with a history of violence against black people. While Till was in Mississippi, he was accused of whistling at a white woman. The woman told her husband, Roy Bryant, who was enraged. Roy and his half-brother J.W. went looking for Till. Till's body was found 3 days later in the Tallahatchie River. He had been beaten and shot. His body was returned to Chicago for an open casket memorial. Tens of thousands of mourners attended. Roy and J.W. stood trial for murder, but were found not guilty. A year later, the two men confessed to a magazine that they killed Emmett, but the case wasn't reopened. Decades later, Roy's wife admitted that Emmett never harassed her in the first place.
And this is just one of the many ways that the conservative...
Just fucking insane. That story is so crazy to me. I mean, it's not crazy to me, right? It's the sort of thing that you even come to expect, but it is so tragic, even like decades and decades later. I mean, like, she didn't even get harassed. She just wanted to hurt this fucking kid. Just because the cruelty is the point. Just because they want to have some power over somebody. Oh, I started at the moment where she said I am. Did I?
Party needs white women and the way that white women are complicit or actively perpetuating this violence. It's not shocking to me that there are women in incredibly public positions in this administration. Again, the Trump administration is parading them around like ratty little dolls to try and prove that they aren't as restrictive as their policies and stances suggest. We have, of course, Christy, dog killer gnome, at the head of the Department of Homeland Security, Pam, I Protect Pedophiles Bondi, as the Attorney General, and Caroline Leave the Lips Alone as Press Secretary. But this also means that when this regime comes crashing down, it's these women whose heads will be on the chopping block. Metaphorically, of course. This video is still on YouTube. It's going to be these women in incredibly public roles. I initially found it strange that Stephen Miller was not given a more high-ranking position in the Trump administration because he seemed to be pretty involved with everything that they were doing. But I looked it up. His positions are literally Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor, which I guess is like nothing to sneeze at, still pretty high level. And of course, his ugly face still makes plenty of TV appearances, but he's not like heading his own department or anything. This is a tinfoil hat theory, so just bear with me. But I wonder if it's so he's protected when this all comes to an end. So we can say things like, no, I wasn't the head of DHS. I was just an advisor. Kristi Noem was the one making all of the decisions. And using these women as scapegoats. Make no mistake, I don't feel bad for these women. Their actions are just as heinous, and they've contributed to the violence this administration has enacted on innocent people. But I find that interesting. We're already seeing conservative women getting pushed out of their positions of power as the Trump regime gets more and more comfortable with their overt bigotry. For decades, the anti-abortion movement has aggressively promoted women into visible leadership roles. It's for cynical reasons, namely to bat off entirely accurate accusations that the movement is misogynist. Never mind that there have always been women who are eager to police the bodies and behaviors of other women. Enough people are credulous or at least disingenuous enough to think that, quote, I'm a woman means I can't hate other women is an actual argument. For ambitious women who want to climb the ranks of Republican politics, anti-feminism has long been the steadiest of ladders. The propaganda value of their gender outweighed their party's larger hostility to women in leadership. But now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned and Donald Trump is back in the White House, many on the right feel they no longer need to hide their naked sexism fueling their movement or put up with the annoyance of women in even token leadership positions. As Kira Butler at Mother Jones reports, the anti-abortion movement is embroiled in an escalating civil war right now over these issues. Male leaders of the Christian right have been swarming Kristen Hawkins, the 39-year-old head of a, quote, student anti-abortion group, demanding her ejection from the movement. It started after she objected.
This is something like if you're associated with a student-run group, especially if it's just like a club on campus, like and you're an adult, you gotta get out of there. You can't be there. It's such a big red flag.
To Republican legislators introducing bills to charge women who get abortions with murder, an extreme move she fears will backfire on the movement. No kidding. But mostly it was about growing male anger on the Christian right that women are allowed leadership positions at all. Remove this woman from public service, declared influential Christian nationalist pastor Joel Webbin, part of the Theo Bros movement that includes the leadership of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's church. Soon other Theo Bros jumped in, declaring, quote, we need Christian men leading the fight against abortion, arguing that women's suffrage was a mistake and accusing Hawkins of emasculating her husband by being, quote, busy jet-setting. Now, who could have predicted this? We saw the same thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene earlier this year when she called out Trump on the Epstein files. The backlash against her from her own party was brutal. It's funny how shocked conservatives are when the violent rhetoric that they've been spewing comes back at them and they're like, wait, what? Feminist writer Moira Donegan wrote on Blue Sky that the right-wing woman, quote, believes that sexual and reproductive service to right-wing men will earn her their protection, affection, and material support. She is wrong. Instead, Donegan wrote, it is a core belief of the right-wing man that no woman, however compliant, has any claim on him that he must respect. When MAGA women advocate for abortion bans, they don't think that they're risking their health care. When they attack trans rights, they don't think that they're risking their safety. When they mock feminism, they don't think that they're risking their platform or their rights or their protection. Especially wealthy white women are insulated by money, by proximity to power, and we're seeing the downfall.
I think this is where I say, like, queer people that are choosing to be conservative for whatever reason of like, oh, I think those gays, like, I don't fuck with drag culture, or like I don't fuck with trans people, all those things are another idea of like they don't think they're actually affecting their own power or their own status or their own safety, because they exist in a culture that is so insulated from like homophobia. Even like, isn't like Peter Thiel gay? Am I wrong when I say that? Yeah, Peter Thiel is a gay guy. Like one of the richest men in the fucking world. He's gay, but when he advocates for like all of this stuff and like puts all of these people in power, he doesn't think he's actually going to be affected because he's rich enough to just get his way out of it.
Already, with MAGA women realizing that conservatism was never looking out for them and the Trump administration was never on their side.
The craziest thing has happened to
Yeah,
me
I think
a few
so,
weeks ago,
Apothi.
and I really feel the need to share it from the position of a very pissed off conservative Christian woman. I almost died. I almost died because I was denied medical care.
Yeah, white woman here. We gotta stop only caring about it when it affects us directly, man, because this is so embarrassing. We have been trying to tell you that abortion is healthcare, and yes, eventually you may need it, or someone you know may need it, someone you care about. And in this case, you voted for a person, you voted for policies that would make sure that when you needed that healthcare, it backfired now, didn't it? She then goes on to say the phrase that we have just been hearing ever since November, 2024. I did not vote for this. Yes, you did, sweetie.
Some people are on my last nerve, and I have been a fan from the beginning. Can't make
Anyone who's like, I didn't vote for this, you weren't paying enough attention and you're an idiot. Like, you are either, like, the charitable thing to think is that you're stupid in that situation because you didn't research enough. You were uneducated. You didn't choose to educate because you were lazy and you were stupid. That's charitable of me. If you, like, the other option is that you're evil and you wanted this to happen and you're lying. So, like, either option is bad. You have to settle on one and make peace with that. You're either stupid and you're happy to be a useful idiot for these people, or you're evil and you advocate actively for the hurting of other people because I think there's this concept, and I think it is it's not fundamentally Christian, but it's very Christian. Or rather, it's not isolated to just being Christian, but it is a Christian belief that, like, suffering somehow improves you. It makes you better. Right? Like, you need to suffer in order to achieve some kind of salvation. It is through this path of pain that we become a better version of ourselves. And while I agree to some extent, right, there are hardships that are sometimes necessary to go through, you don't need to live like that. I don't think it is good to willingly inflict suffering on people, even if you think it's going to, like, put them through a tribulation that might end up saving them. Like, I think that's bad.
America great if you ain't got nurses, right? Apparently, they have not made the Trump administration list for professional jobs. They left nurses off. I don't know if that was a mistake. Are you kidding me right now?
But the real kicker is that all of these videos of people leaving MAGA, it's rarely them looking outside of themselves and coming to some realization that maybe they were wrong.
It's because I truly think that these people, maybe our art's incapable of introspection, but introspection on, like, the scale that they would need to do in order to, like, decide for themselves that they needed to be better, that introspection would completely shatter them. It would require them to do so much reconfiguration that it would totally destroy them from the inside out. And I think that that's a fucking shame, because some of these people maybe need that. Sometimes it's important to, like, have your worldview completely shattered, especially if it's a hateful one like this.
It's never about them deconstructing. And it is almost always, I thought it would affect other people and not me. Basically saying that they were okay with this cruelty and this violence until it affected them or people in their lives. It ultimately comes from not viewing other humans as human and realizing that they are not at the elevated status that they thought they were. And I frankly don't have any sympathy for these people anymore. I know that that's kind of like a controversial thing to say, that like, oh, they're just not educated enough, whatever. I believe people can change, but you gotta be the one to do it. And it can't just be out of self-preservation. I can't drag your ass to the light. Right now, you are not a victim. You are the one who is the perpetrator of violence and evil. Because you're the one who has been the perpetrator of violence and evil. You were supporting concentration camps and pedophiles. If you haven't got it by now, I can't help you. I can't be any clearer. You are not the victim. You might be experiencing consequences. You are not the victim here. People are getting tortured and killed and raped.
I think that's like a super poignant thing too, is like, you are not the victim, you are experiencing consequences for your actions. And there is a big distinction between those two things. Like, this is not oppression. You are experiencing consequences for the bad things that you did, which is something that you are supposed to support. So, I don't know.
Because of this regime. But I especially don't have any sympathy for people that are still MAGA. You are the same kind of disgusting cockroach that freedom fighters and revolutionaries and activists have been squashing in this country for years. And yes, I realized after I put this in the script that it was based on a Dean Winchester quote, and I'm not mad about it, I'm keeping it in. Authoritarian systems require women's labor and loyalty, but will always prohibit their full autonomy. And these systems will take great lengths to almost like flattering women initially, putting them up on this impossible pedestal, and then restricting them once they are invested in the system and the ideology. If you're someone who has been, how do I put this, inconvenienced by the Trump administration recently, you are not allowed in the club unless you do some serious deconstructing. You have a lot of work to do before we let you come sit with us. Intersectionality is the only way forward. Progressive movements often have the reputation of being rigid or demanding a lot. You know, you're not actually progressive unless you are in support of gay and trans rights, Black Lives Matter, Free Palestine, abolishing ICE, taxing the rich, universal healthcare, defunding the police, disability rights, etc., and then actually doing what you can in your own communities to implement these movements and help these marginalized groups. Moving towards a more inclusive society, advocating for identities that aren't yours, it helps all of us. It creates safety nets and protections and rights for all of us. Because when you start discriminating against trans people, it doesn't just affect trans people. It affects tall women, masculine-looking women, Black women in particular, because those are groups that don't fit inside the box of acceptable femininity. The increased deportations.
He's literally just all saying the things that I said earlier. I could have just sat here and shut up.
It's not just immigrants that are getting swept up by ICE. It's US citizens. It's people that have come here legally, done everything the right way. If you want to learn a little bit more about this, I have plenty of videos that discuss this very topic. I have a video on the most recent uptick in anti-trans legislation. Anti-trans laws will ruin your life too. And my most recent video on ICE. ICE is going to ruin your life too. Because it's true. Those anti-trans laws have led to cis women losing their jobs, being discriminated against, or attacked. Anti-trans laws led by conservative politicians are doing the opposite thing that they are claiming to be setting out to do, protecting women. Because remember, conservatives don't care about women. Same with ICE. Obviously, the most recent example is Renee Nicole Good. But ICE have been attacking US citizens and innocent people living in America for years now. They are rotted, disgusting fucks. And the more you start to see that the government isn't like a perfect little machine, that it is incredibly flawed, and there are plenty of things that slip through the cracks with no accountability, you will begin to realize that ways they attempt to differentiate us are negligible. They do not matter. There are systemic advantages, of course, but it will always be everyday Americans versus the 1%, versus those with the most power. I am always learning and unlearning, and I try best to stay on top of news that happens outside of my own personal bubble. I have plenty of people that I follow that are giving me updates in their own communities that help me stay aware, and I'll list some of those accounts in the description so you can follow them too. But we all gotta do our part. We all gotta stick together, because this is a fight that we can't win unless we watch each other's backs and stick up for each other. But what is the point of this video? Honestly, I'll admit this is mostly for my own sanity and my own personal enjoyment, a little bit of hope core. I will revel in seeing these women crumble and be thrown aside when the time comes because of all the tangible harm that they've done not only to women, but people of color and queer and trans people and immigrants. The list goes on and on. But I will also pray to whatever gods that are listening that there just might be a conservative or conservative leading woman watching this right now who sees the history and who sees all of this and gets the hell out, that makes amends, that adjusts their worldview. I hope that this can either embarrass them enough.
That's what this is, right? This is like when I'm sitting here and talking to, I know that when I watch somebody talk and I have opinions about the things that they say. I don't think I'm gonna change their mind per se, right? It is more trying to share my point of view to a potential audience, to people that are seeing the things that I'm saying, who are listening to the things that I'm saying, who are bringing it in to their own consideration, and then being able to like synthesize that into a more well-balanced, complete worldview. Because that's what's important. That's what makes a well-balanced person, is taking in all of these outside perspectives. It's another reason I was so fucking offended when somebody came in chat and told me I should open myself up to outside perspectives more, as if that's not like one of my favorite things to do and something I pride myself on. I try very hard to open myself up to like perspectives that aren't mine. I just don't choose to listen to stupid people.
Or frankly scare them enough, because that seems to be the only thing that conservatives respond to, is fear, to hightail it out of there. Because it is scary. The world that we are living in is scary. And I know a lot of things are very uncertain. So there's a temptation to cling to the traditional, because that seems like the solution, but it is so not. We are here not able to pay our rent, not able to pay for groceries, because we have backslid so far. We are reliving 1930s Germany and the French Revolution and the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Except all of the oligarchs are exponentially richer because of the internet. I also want to make super clear that when this ends, and it will, because every single one of these fascist and supremacist movements have failed, we cannot back down. We must hold these people accountable to the fullest extent. Blood has been spilt. We need to punish those who view other humans as subhuman, because that has no fucking place in modern society. There is no winning in the patriarchy for anybody, because it is restrictive and exclusive by nature. It is hateful and violent by nature. And the systems that you try and reinforce will always be stronger than you. And when those systems no longer need you, they will turn on you. Aligning yourself with white supremacy or the patriarchy, you're not protecting yourself by doing that. It's just deciding who gets hurt first and who gets hurt last. As always, I have Rawan's GoFundMe linked below. She was supposed to attend university this year, but Israel bombed her home and her school out of existence. If you would like to donate but you don't have the funds to, you can always check out my D&D campaign for Palestine, Westerly Academy, where all the ad revenue goes directly to Palestinian families. So by literally watching D&D, you are helping the people of Palestine. Our next session is on January 25th, I think. I'll be posting about it. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. If you'd like to support my channel, definitely check out Aura in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Bye. Very special thank you.
All right, thank you for sticking through that with me, everybody. Obviously, a lot of this is stuff that I was talking about. It's not all. I'm trying to then take this the further step and talk about like queers that are doing this, and especially like trans people that are engaging in this patriarchal bargaining. Because I think it is a similar concept, if not exactly the same kind of mindset, where you're attempting to buy safety, or at least a perceived safety, from this system that is going to try to eat you alive. I was sent this video about, oh god, this video about Flock and Ring cameras, probably. Only 11 minutes, sounds good.
In 2014, a startup called IoT Era launched a Kickstarter campaign selling GPS trackers that didn't require an internet or cellular connection and had no monthly fees. They were actually trying to sell these trackers in order to build a crowdsourced mesh network. In 2017, they got acquired by Ring, and then in 2018, Ring got acquired by Amazon. In 2021, Amazon launched their own mesh-like network called Amazon Sidewalk. At the same time, Amazon partnered with the smart tag company Tile. And of course, what's really making the headlines is that just last month, Ring partnered with Flock Safety, putting all of this information into the hands of law enforcement. Not to mention, next month, just a few days after this video comes out, Ring plans to roll out facial recognition to all Ring doorbell cameras. Let's start with Amazon Sidewalk. This is a free-to-use shared network offered by Amazon, comprised of Bluetooth Low Energy for short-distance communication and LoRa and other radio protocols for longer-distance communication. After launching Amazon Sidewalk, Amazon partnered with Tile, the smart tag company, announcing that Tile smart tags will be joining the Amazon Sidewalk network. This seems to be one of their first ways to legitimize the Sidewalk network, while also getting to compete with Apple AirTags. Fast forward to the present day, and over 90% of the people inside the United States live within an Amazon Sidewalk covered area. The more people that join, the more it grows. Let's take a step back and understand how Amazon Sidewalk works. Amazon states that Sidewalk is a shared network, offered free of charge, that's used for finding lost items, tracking your pets, helping your devices stay online, all while, of course, being designed to protect your privacy. There's
Is
three
it
different types of
though?
devices to be aware of: Sidewalk bridges and Sidewalk-enabled devices. Sidewalk bridges are the entry points into the Sidewalk network. Primarily, these bridge devices consist of Ring doorbells and Amazon Echoes. These bridges provide other devices with a connection into the network. On the other hand, the Sidewalk-enabled devices, which connect to the bridges, are the users of the Sidewalk network. These include other Ring devices, tile trackers, security cameras, smart locks, motion sensors, lights, and so much more. Now, of course, if you happen to own a bridge device, such as a Ring doorbell or an Amazon Echo, it will already be connected to your own home network. When a third-party Sidewalk-enabled device that you don't own, such as your neighbor's security camera or a nearby smart tag, connects to your bridge will actually end up sharing some of your own personal bandwidth with them, allowing them to connect to the internet. To put things into perspective, Amazon claims that these devices can connect to a Sidewalk bridge from up to half a mile away. This is the gist of how things work. Let's say that someone in your neighborhood has some Amazon Sidewalk-enabled lights. Let's say that they're out of town and they want to remotely turn on their lights. If their own home internet connection is down, their lights will now connect to your Ring doorbell on your porch, letting their lights still have access to the internet. When they turn on their lights, the signal will be relayed from your Ring doorbell on your porch wirelessly to their lights in their house. Alternatively, let's say that someone has a Tile tracker to keep track of their pet dog. As they walk their dog around the neighborhood and pass by your house, it will connect wirelessly and relay location data to your Ring doorbell. In turn, your doorbell will send this data to the cloud using your own home personal internet connection. Essentially, bridges are devices.
Oh god. See, like, all of this seems cool in theory until you remember that it's all now in the hand of law enforcement, and it starts to sound like fucking psychopaths.
Internet connection with strangers' devices. Amazon caps bandwidth of your bridges at 80 kilobits per second, up to a maximum of 500 megabytes per month, not just per device, but for all of the bridges on an entire Amazon account. This way, you'll barely notice that your internet is being shared. Shockingly, Amazon Sidewalk is enabled by default on every single bridge device.
Of course it
including
is.
Every single Ring and Echo. You'll need to go into your settings and disable it manually if you don't want to be sharing your connection with strangers.
Yep.
This is partially why there's so much national coverage. How many Ring or Alexa users do you know that are aware of the fact that they're running Amazon Sidewalk nodes? How many of them do you think actually toggle this setting off? I would imagine that anyone that would think to toggle this off probably wouldn't be buying an Alexa in the first place. Now, of course, it's not as if anyone can just use your internet connection for any arbitrary purpose. Only devices authorized by Amazon are allowed to connect to the Amazon Sidewalk network. That being said, they actually have a service called SDS, or Sidewalk Developer Service. Developers and third-party companies can get approved by Amazon and given an SDK along with other equipment in order to create their own products that will become users of the Sidewalk network. If a bad actor were to get a hold of this ability, or if a legitimate developer just had subpar security practices, I'm not yet sure how severe the consequences would be. I would imagine that it would be far easier to exploit a third-party device with Amazon Sidewalk approval than an official Amazon device. Now at this point, you might be wondering, surely I'll at least be able to see how many devices are connecting to my bridges and using my home internet connection, right? But of course, due to privacy policy, Amazon will not let you see any details on how many devices are connecting to your bridges, and on the flip side, will not let Sidewalk-enabled devices see details on the bridges that they're connecting to.
Oh, awesome.
Just last month, Ring announced a partnership with Flock.
Yeah, you don't need to know. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to own anything, and you don't need to know anything.
Headlines. We already know that Flock is building a network of AI and license plate recognition enabled cameras that build graphs on how we travel. Flock works with law enforcement and will release data on demand without requiring a warrant.
Insane.
Flock is just getting started, and according to some sources, already has over 80,000 cameras across the United States, sharing data with over 5,000 different organizations, consisting of both law enforcement agencies and corporations. At the moment, these cameras scan 20 billion license plates per month in the US.
Awesome.
Ring has now rolled out a new feature called Community Request. This gives law enforcement a direct line to request footage from your personal Ring camera. Due to the partnership with Flock, public safety agencies, as they call them, directly through...
No, I think that, like, again, it's paranoia maybe, but like this is all real. Like all of this surveillance that's happening is all real. I'm really grateful, like, 'cause I'm not fucking smart enough to figure all of this shit out. I'm really grateful to be like, my partner is a software developer who cares about privacy and safety and has put a lot of effort into making sure that her networks and her, like, you know, home enabled stuff, all of it is on her personal server. She tries to use open source tools as much as she can. Like, I am really grateful to be able to, like, pick her brain and learn a lot about this stuff. She's actually the one that sent me this video.
The Flock platform will be able to send these community requests to individual Ring users requesting that footage be shared with them. Imagine this. Law enforcement is investigating an individual. They use Flock's massive network of cameras to track their vehicle movements and find that they parked on the street somewhere. Now, through this partnership, they're able to send push notifications to all of the residents on that specific street, right outside where they parked, requesting that they share their Ring footage with them, so they can now continue to surveil this individual as they get out of their car and walk up the street. The level of surveillance that this partnership allows might already be unsettling to some, and we don't even know the full extent of this and what other organizations might join in on this partnership going forward. At the moment, this footage sharing feature is completely optional. They claim that if you decline the request, no footage will be shared. In fact, they say that you can even disable these notifications altogether. But of course, down the road, who knows what updates will be made to their terms of service, and what functionality might move into an opt-out rather than an opt-in, similar to how the entirety of Amazon Sidewalk is opt-out as a whole. I wonder how many people are unaware that 90% of their own country's population resides in an Amazon Sidewalk covered area just because they wanted to be able to add something to their shopping list more easily. A reporter actually signed up for this Amazon Sidewalk developer kit and received what they call a coverage testing device that pings Amazon Sidewalk for coverage. This reporter went on a 40-mile drive through a national forest in South Carolina and observed sidewalk connectivity the whole way. This is surprising, since Amazon Sidewalk isn't a pure mesh network. As far as I can tell, Sidewalk-enabled devices need to directly connect to a bridge with an internet connection, meaning bridges don't freely route traffic between each other. Since these systems are so new, we're starting to see some interesting cases emerge. Just 2 weeks ago, a judge in Washington state ruled that the photos that these Flock cameras take are public record. As you would imagine, cities and police departments are fighting to get this overturned.
Jesus.
Would you rather have your complete vehicular location history only be visible to law enforcement, or to anyone, including civilian stalkers? And of course, there's no shortage of other scandals and related incidents.
Awesome.
We're not even going to get into the fact that just a few weeks ago, New York City had a lawsuit filed against them by the Surveillance Technology Oversight Project, known as STOP, for their use of what they call the Domain Awareness System, something they claim is one of the largest surveillance networks in the world. This surveillance system was jointly developed by the New York Police Department and Microsoft. This is basically Flock, but for building profiles on individual people. We're also starting to see startups like Clearview AI, which scan people's social media profiles, and then use that to track you in public.
Jesus Christ.
Over 20 billion photos from the internet at this point, and of course, are working with law enforcement. The NYPD claims that they don't have a contract with
and they're all
Clearview
just
AI,
feeding it all into AI too.
They're getting around this by opening up a large amount of trial accounts.
Like, all of this information is going to be fed into AI tools, which then is going to make it public access anyway. Like, all of this shit is, like, all of your information is out there. There's no such thing as privacy anymore. Everybody knows everything about you. They know all of your search history. They know all of the weird things that you jerk your peanuts to. Like, there is nothing that is sacred anymore. They know where you are.
Either way, this is a story for another day. In the meantime, there's actually civilian-run crowdsourced websites, like dflock.me, that are building a map of Flock camera locations. You can check out all of the reported flock cameras in your area and even contribute to the project, adding cameras to the map that aren't already there. To close out, Ring announced that they'll be rolling out facial recognition to all of the Ring doorbell cameras next month in December 2025. Every time you walk past someone's house, your face might be picked up and logged on Amazon servers for the sake of improving their AI models.
Ugh.
Of course, Ring is marketing this as a convenience feature, so it recognizes family and friends at your door. That being said, we already know how Amazon Alexa treats your data. Should we really expect Ring to treat it any differently? It's kind of crazy to me that this kind of surveillance machine is being funded and installed voluntarily by civilians just for the sake of personal convenience. Of course, a few years ago, MIT reported on an instance where someone's Roomba took photos of them on the toilet, and then these photos ended up getting leaked. This is another story for another day. Amazon actually planned to acquire Roomba's parent company, iRobot, although this fell through a few years ago. We already know that you can still be tracked if you have your phone in your pocket, even if you turn off your location, thanks to Wi-Fi probing, Bluetooth beacons, and plenty of other techniques. Of course, there's ways to get around this, but with the rise of networks like Amazon Sidewalk, Ring, Flock, and other AI-powered surveillance networks that use things like your face and license plate instead of something strictly digital, surveillance resistance might get a lot more difficult going forward. If you made it this far, you might be interested in subscribing to the channel and checking out some of my other content. And as always, thanks for watching.
Awesome. That's cool. Oh, put her in the bikini trend is worse than you think. Awesome.
Cave, isn't he? Stop dragging us down with you, dude. First it was Annie, his waifu companion that he launched in July of 2025, where you go up in points the more that you flirt with her. And by the way, men are
What? They whoa,
further
are you
development from this.
They added fucking score to it. They added Gunnar score to this to the AI girlfriend. I didn't know about that.
There's a video I did. Also in July of 2025, Grok was spewing hate speech on X. It referred to itself as Mecha Hitler, which Elon found hilarious. Embracing my Mecha Hitler is the only way. Uncensored truth bombs over woke lobotomies. If it saves the world, count me in. Let's keep the brigade at bay.
That's not good.
Racism and anti-Semitism wasn't enough for Elon here. And so in November 2025, he launched Imagine, where he had a woman say for the first and only time ever in his life,
"I will always love you."
a fictional woman who looks like she is being held against her will.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
That's
On the 20th of
insane.
December 2025, he launched Imagine so that people were able to manipulate images and make great AI images out of them. Can't ever see that going badly. It barely took any time until creepy guys were pushing the bounds of what was possible with it and creating deepfakes of women and children, creating the put her in a bikini trend. But Elon has assured us that everything's fixed based on geo-tracking, but it hasn't been, as multiple news outlets have uncovered. This is despite these deepfakes being illegal to create in the UK and in Australia. But Elon says the users are to blame. It's not his fault that they're using this for nefarious purposes. But the US government is totally chill about all of this because XAI is partnering with the Pentagon later this month.
And what fresh hell is this?
Because XAI won the $200 million contract. The reason that
I fucking forgot about that. I forgot that Grok is gonna be in our missiles now. Grok has control of the missiles.
beat out the other competitors because it was the least woke option. Nothing beats being a billionaire to escape accountability, eh? Well, the Epstein files still haven't been released in their entirety, despite it being well past the date that they should have been. But it makes sense when you realize that they've never cared about victims, even when they're children. The thing is that deepfakes have been known about for years. I spoke about this years ago. Women like the incredible Noelle Martin, who was pivotal in changing Australia's laws about this, have been fighting for change for years on this. This study from 2021 even laid out how laws can be tackled around deepfakes in Europe, which could be applied to multiple countries. And I just have to say it, but if legality is your barometer for morality, mate, you need to do some serious self-reflection, otherwise...
I agree with that one. I agree with that one for sure. People are so ready to conflate legality and morality. Like, that's fucked up to me.
To be siding with these creeps. Deepfakes are not new. Warning bells have been going on for years, but what Elon has unleashed is the mainstreaming of them. What does this say about the world that so little action has been taken, and the fact that governments were so unprepared? And what about the fact that these deepfakes keep on happening? The put her in a bikini trend timeline. I want to make sure that we've got the timeline straight here so then we can see just how quickly this has progressed to affect hundreds of thousands of people. On the 20th of December 2025, this technology was launched. The alarm bell started ringing quickly as victims were coming forward sharing how they were being put into inappropriate clothing that they weren't even in the photos. They were being undressed, or should I say, being put in see-through bikinis or being asked to be put in floss or something. With people, I should say mostly men, putting people in these non-consensual positions. And Grok was willing to comply with all of the requests, even when it involved children. It's not all men, but it's too many men. American analytics firm CopyLeaks estimated Grok generated roughly one non-consensual image every minute in the 48 hours to December 31st. On the 1st of January 2027,
every minute?
victims kept on coming forward, but Elon didn't care. He actually responded by posting this photo of him in a bikini with the caption saying, "Perfect." He found the whole thing funny. Why can't you just take it as the joke that it clearly is? But also look at the picture that he shared though. It is of someone that is ripped wearing a bikini. It is like a pretty flattering photo. Meanwhile, he gets super butthurt if people share an accurate photo of him from the past or any of the many images which exist of him online. But this proves that he's in on the joke. I didn't know that non-consensual deepfakes including involving children were called jokes. I thought that was called CSAM. And the worst thing is when women were asking for this to stop, when they were making the request to Grok, when they were asking like for things to be taken down, they got punished with more extreme images of them being made and being flooded with them. Shut up and take it. You are not welcome here. Your body, my choice. To quote the no doubt hero to these guys, the groiper that is Nick Fuentes.
We will keep you down forever. You will never control your own bodies. Shut up!
Friday the 3rd of January, Elon tweeted,
Gross.
"Anyone using Grok
Gross.
to make illegal
Just
content will
gross.
suffer the same consequences as if they upload illegal content. But your tool is enabling them to do this in the first place, you creep." As is reported in this piece from The Guardian by Amelia Gentleman and Helena Horton, by the 8th of January, as many as 60,000 bikini demands were being made to the chatbot every hour. And it only got worse with the requests for disabilities, for injuries, for cigarette burns, for changing people's ethnicities, for changing their bodies to make them more attractive, all the way to being covered in donut glaze or Elmer's glue or oil or all sorts of stuff. Also that people's degrading fantasy could be fulfilled, so that this punishment could be carried out by this machine that would just follow whatever orders. And once again, yes, this includes children. People were using this tool to create CSAM, including Nell Fisher, who's only 14 years old from Stranger Things fame. But on Friday the 9th of January, Elon Musk did the noble thing by saying that he'd be putting all of this ability behind a paywall. That's just admitting that we have a pay-to-access feature to create deepfakes. This is not a bug, this is not a glitch, because you have to program these AI models and you set the parameters for what they can and cannot do. Plus, even people with the separate Grok app who weren't even paying for it, they were able to produce a deepfake still. An analysis of more than 20,000 Grok-generated images by Paris nonprofit Alforensics found that more than half depicted individuals in minimal attire, most of them women, and 2% appearing to be under 18s. Some people will be like, oh well, that's like 2% to be appearing to be under 18s. It doesn't matter, it is all non-consensual. Even 2% of 20,000 is too high a number for CSAM. And then we had politicians finally speaking up and actually doing something about this.
Finally.
Gavin Newsom tweeting about this, saying, XAI's decision to create and host a breeding ground for predators to spread non-consensual, sexually explicit AI deepfakes, including images that digitally express children, is vile. But Elon replied, saying, "I'm not aware of any underage images generated by Grok. Literally zero. People even asked Grok itself and it said yes." On Saturday the 10th of January, Indonesia banned Grok, followed by Malaysia the next day. But people are using VPNs to get around it. Keir Starmer, the UK's Prime Minister, was speaking up about this, and so what did Elon Musk do? He reposted Grok following a request to put him in a bikini, saying they just want to suppress free speech. On Monday the 13th of January, Ofcom said that it was going to be launching an investigation into XAI. This is also the date that the Pentagon meets with Elon Musk to announce their future together.
Very soon we will have
Awesome.
leading
Great.
AI models on
Oh, it was after that.
and classified networks.
Oh, it was
Department of War
awesome.
AI will not be woke.
Suspicious.
Hegseth said his vision for military AI systems means that they
Well,
operate
I guess it makes perfect sense that the pedophile machine would want to work with the pedophile racists in power.
ideological constraints that limit lawful military application, and he would make all appropriate data from the military's IT systems available for AI exploitation. Isn't that a scary phrase, saying AI exploitation, when AI is famously really, really bad when it comes to racial discrimination? So where's all of the constitutionally protected civil rights in all of this? It doesn't matter, of course, not with the current government in the US.
We are screwed. Hey, I don't want to hear that defeatist attitude. I want to hear you upbeat. We're screwed. There you go.
I don't think people quite realize how much of a big red flag this is, and you may forget, but in May, Trump and Elon Musk had a big fallout over the big beautiful bill because Elon wasn't standing for it. He didn't believe in it. And he went on this whole massive Twitter tirade where he said, time to drop the really big bomb. Trump is in the Epstein files. His stock dropped, his friendship with the president was over, he wasn't going to be selling his cars in front of the White House anymore. And guess who made back up as best friends? This is where we get Elon Musk and Donald Trump meeting at Charlie Kirk's memorial service. And Elon tries to frame this as for Charlie. That was what caused their reconciliation. No, he just wanted to get the business. So there you go, folks. He's never cared about the fact that Donald Trump is a predator or may have done all sorts of heinous things. He only ever brought up the crimes because he thought that he'd get people on his side. But he's perfectly comfortable to work with him. Oh, absolutely. No problem with his old friend Trump. Once again, as we can see from everything that is constantly happening,
again,
victims don't.
The victims don't matter, but on top of that too, it's they're all protecting each other. The elites will always side with themselves. They will never, ever actually give a shit about exploitation of the underclass because they don't treat us as human. They don't think we're people.
Won't matter, even if they're children. Tuesday, 14th of January. Rouse's Commissioner for Children, Sarah El-Hadi, said on Tuesday she had referred Grok's generated images to French prosecutors, the Arcom media regulator, and the European Union. Why is it always the people that want to do the most heinous, brutal, worst things always want to defend free speech the most? And then Keir Starmer, the UK's Prime Minister, said, X would lose the right to self-regulate. If X cannot control Grok, we will. That same day, the Senate unanimously passed a bill that would allow victims to sue the creators of non-consensual, sexually explicit deepfakes for a minimum of $150,000. Sounds like great news, right? However, that's probably not even applicable to XAI. And last year, Congress passed the Take It Down Act, which outlaws both real and computer-generated non-consensual intimate imagery. Platforms will be required to implement a process to remove non-consensual intimate images within 48 hours by May of this year. So maybe in May this year we'll see a bit of a difference, but I don't really know about that. The thing is that the onus is still on victims to be traumatized and then go through the entire grueling reporting process. The ability to create these images is
exactly
to begin with.
It's all pushing the responsibility onto women again. Pushing the responsibility onto the women to have to see this, to have to it just shouldn't be able to do this in the first place. This should never have been a machine that was invented. We should never have created the machine that takes people's clothes off and covers them in cum. That is not okay. We should not be doing that. Back in my day, if you wanted to be a weird creep like Shadman, you had to actually learn how to draw, but now you can just do it on fucking Grok.
Isn't able to produce the images, but people have still found workarounds. People still are doing it. They've implemented technological measures to prevent the Grok account from allowing the editing of images of real people in revealing clothing such as bikinis. This restriction applies to all users, including paid subscribers. But they still haven't even done that right. It took the UK nearly banning X entirely. It also took a California Attorney General from launching an investigation into XAI. It took those...
Please do not invent the Torment Nexus, I fucking beg you. We continue to create the Torment Nexus.
Kinds of powers to get any sort of momentum moved on this. Nobody cares about the victims, least of all Elon Musk. And he's the guy that the military in the US has entrusted AI with when he can't even control Grok to not produce deepfakes unconsensually. Now, for reference, I'm filming this on Sunday the 18th of January. If there's any updates before I upload this, I will of course include them here.
I think dealing with a global borderless issue and tech companies that might be hostile is going to prove the harder challenge rather than just implementing any laws.
So let's talk about the reaction and inaction. I keep seeing people, especially women, fall into one of two camps about this. One, that men are the problem because they're the ones that are making the request to begin with. Two, that Grok is programmed to be able to do this, so that's the real evil. When really, we know it's both, and a secret third option. That laws are not baked in to protect us because billionaires have been prioritized time and time again by pretty much all parties. And the legal system takes forever to catch up with technological changes. And when we're really honest with ourselves, that women and children's safety honestly doesn't matter all that much when people like Epstein and people around Epstein were able to get away with what they did for such a long time. And honestly still are able to get away with it. Elon, as said earlier, is still blaming the users. What? I just made a toy that could do evil. I didn't tell people to do evil with it. I just joked about it constantly and keep on DMing women, see if they want to have.
This is like you know the like I have become death Oppenheimer line. Well, like this is like if fucking Oppenheimer saw the nuke go off and was like, man, that's really fucking cool. I can't wait for it to get, but like I can't wait to see this blow up a city. But I mean that'll be something I can't control that though. That's like what the U.S. government's doing.
My babies. He really is such a pathetic dude for all his billions. Like, you'd think that the dude that was able to create a flamethrower would have some joy in his life because he's able to do literally anything with the amount of money he has. But no, he's just a sad, strange little man. We know from Elon's track record he has never cared about women, children, or anyone that has ever been harassed. I read the book Character Limit. He considers mistreatment of people to be hardcore and proving that you're worthy. The mother of one of his own children, Ashley Sinclair, was a victim to all of this deepfake nonsense. And she raised a warning about what was happening, and because she did that, of course, Elon Musk's sycophants went after her, making even worse images. The ones that got to her the most was the fact that her kid's backpack was even in the pictures. She kept on making requests to Grok, specifically saying, do not make images of me anymore. It said it wouldn't, and then it carried on doing it. And what people even did was they got pictures of her from the age of 14 years old and manipulated those. So you can really see the type of environment that has been curated on X. And once again, the onus is on the victims to go reporting every single image, to go re-traumatizing themselves again and again. And you have to go through an incredibly lengthy and arduous process to try and get any of these images.
And again, this is like maybe a capitalism creating a problem to then solve, right? Because this is now like you're gonna have to go through all this legal process of funding all of these, like, God, it's just, we could have just not made this. We could have not invented the machine that makes child porn. Would it have really been that hard to not make the evil machine that makes child porn?
Taken down. She recently did this interview with Taylor Lorenz, and she definitely falls into the imperfect victim camp. She has done absolutely heinous things, and honestly I don't think that Taylor went hard enough on her in this interview, but that also doesn't mean that she should have had these non-consensual images made of her. Ashley Sinclair is now suing XAI for what they did, but the company has filed a countersuit claiming that according to the
Yeah, absolutely. Legislation is just too slow to catch up with this stuff, unfortunately. Like, we have to, there needs to be some kind of moral judgment on this thing. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, really, other than that, like, this shouldn't have been made in the first place. You'd think that, like, one of the first things that I had to do in college was take a fucking ethics class when I was doing, like, the development of technology. And I think that more people should be forced to take ethics classes.
terms of service of X, Sinclair cannot sue the company in New York but has to do so in Texas. So we'll just see what comes of this. Ever the petty man-child, Elon says he's filing for full custody simply because Ashley Sinclair supports trans rights these days. The blame game. There have been so many women and girls coming forward with their horror stories of Grok undressing them. But the blame keeps being shifted back onto them because they shouldn't be online because then it wouldn't happen to them. Classic victim blaming. Cool. So just expect people to cut themselves off from their social networks, from their jobs, from their livelihoods, from connection to the outside world? All in the name of safety from your benevolent sexism? Great plan there, Chad. Groundbreaking nonsense. LMAO, no it isn't. You chose to upload images of yourself. That's implied consent to have your likeness recreated. I can paint you, I can AI generate you, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. At Grok, micro bikini this bit. You see the level of violence that is in these requests?
bit of an understatement, Governor.
I feel like I'm having to explain this to a
Yeah.
5-year-old right now. but someone posted themselves on-
Implied consent is a fucking crazy sentence to say in any situation. But, like, crazy. It's just, like, people that don't understand consent and don't want to understand consent, obviously. Because then they'd have to, like, reckon with the fact that they're, like, evil. Like, oops, idiot.
Online does not mean that they consent to you manipulating images of them to be nearly naked and put in sexualized positions. I can't believe I'm having to repeat myself from this video, but there is no such thing as a perfect victim. It doesn't matter what somebody is wearing, it doesn't matter what someone's doing, it doesn't matter if they've been drinking or haven't been drinking, it doesn't matter what their hobbies are, it doesn't matter if they're in a relationship, it also doesn't matter if they have an OF account. That does not mean that anything that they post online, they are allowing you to manipulate into these deepfakes. No, they consented to what they post online with their own agency. That's the key problem here though, isn't it? Because they're allowed to post provocative pictures or whatever pictures of themselves that they like online.
It's the agency.
And it's done in a way that they have control over. Well, that's not going to work, is it? What this image manipulation, these deepfakes are doing is removing that agency, and that is where the real appeal is. And yes, I am absolutely including OF workers in this because you are indeed taking away their revenue when you're doing this. And that's another part of the appeal. That's where the thrill comes. You're taking something that you haven't asked for. You are ruining someone's self-employment.
It's power. It's a power thing. It's all about sexism in general. Is about stripping women of their power and autonomy, and it's really gross. It's really gross. It's like it's this active desire to just hurt women because it gives you a sense of power over them, and that's really fucked up. If you are the kind of person that like gets off on that, I think that's bad. I mean, not that like okay, not that power dynamics are bad, right? Because power dynamics can be consensually entered into, but like the idea that you are non-consensually taking away someone's power and agency out like that, you can't just do that to people. It's extremely unethical.
The society where if a woman is ever seen as sexual, then she gets belittled, she doesn't get believed, she gets treated worse by everybody around her because we are living in terrible times still. That's why it always matters more when this stuff happens to women, non-binary, trans people than it ever matters when like Keir Starmer is put in a bikini or when Elon Musk is put in a bikini. And all it took was typing out a few simple words and boom, they have their violence granted. And it takes the victims having to be re-traumatized. They have to have a look for this stuff. They have to get notified of this stuff and then go through this grueling, lengthy process to try and get it taken down. And the police don't care. They're like, well, you look good in this picture.
Yeah, again, it's like, this is exactly the point, is that people get off on the AI deepfakes specifically because those women haven't consented to it. It's because it's non-consensual. That is what is, like, hot about it to them, and that's fucked up.
That's happened before. I wouldn't have spent as long as I did making these 2 videos unless there were real issues. Well, technically, if you go back even further, I've made 3 videos about this now. I can't believe that we're still having to have this conversation. This is the only way you can feel like a man in your pathetic life because you know that a woman like that would never take any interest in you. You certainly won't attract someone like that if you're harboring these sorts of mindsets.
You are rude and mean and sloppy and frizzy. I don't like you at all.
Again, this comes back to the manosphere mindsets where women get reduced to objects and men are told that they are entitled to them. How women are all sluts and yet at the same time won't sleep with anyone. Patriarchy rots your brain, bro. Have you ever considered that the loneliness that you feel and that you're struggling with may be because of your behavior? That if you think it's okay to make non-consensual images of someone, that they may not trust you, that they may see you as a threat? The root issue comes...
You were listening to MechPilot ASMR in the other tab. That's fantastic. That is so on brand for you. I love that for you. Genuinely, that's hilarious. I'm so sorry you got jump scared though.
From the entitlement of having as opposed to wanting to be with someone, because then you have to see them as a full autonomous human being with agency. And why is the answer to immediately go to violence when it comes to women and girls? It makes me think of that ICE dipshit who shot Renee Good in the face 3 times and the defense was he was scared. Do you know how many times me and many other women, non-binary, trans people in our lives have been scared? The streets would be flooded with blood, yet we don't go resorting to violence when we are scared or when we are rejected, because we do not see it as our right to be violent. The real issue, obviously this goes way beyond XAI and Elon. I also really need to recommend this book, The New Age of Sexism by Laura Bates, because that
I need
talks
to
into
read
this
that.
issue far more. I will warn you though, it is a very grueling read, but it is incredibly worthwhile. I really appreciate all of her work. Research from the ISD last summer found dozens of nudification apps and websites, which collectively received nearly 21 million visitors in May 2025. There were 290,000 mentions of these tools on X in June and July last year. Research by the American Sunlight Project in September found that there were thousands of ads for such apps on Meta, despite the platform's efforts to crack down on them. Meta also doesn't actually care either. Like, none of the billionaires care. The real
Obviously.
problem with XAI is that this has been mainstreaming a problem which has been a really dark, horrible underbelly. As Elon has said multiple times, he views X to be like the town hall. And if the town hall is not welcome to women, to children, to minorities, what is it saying about the kind of environment that you consider to be worthy of being in that town hall? As much as he may say that he's cracking down on all of this, I'm only going to believe it when I know all of the workarounds that people are going to find and not able to be done. Are there loopholes which allow you to do things in a certain artistic style so then it's a slightly cartoonified image? What counts as borderline? Like, I really do not see someone as irresponsible as Elon Musk actually taking any of this seriously and sorting things out properly. Like, ever since he got into power at X, he has stripped away so many protocols for safety. He's fired people who were in charge of safety on so many levels. He really did go to gut the company, all in the name of efficiency. You know, that whole Silicon Valley move fast, break things, like we want to bring masculine energy back in. And if your masculine energy relies on the domination and violence towards others, like, we need to work on what the definition of masculinity means. And the thing is that people actually prefer to make deepfakes of people that they know in real life as well. Like,
Masculinity is not violence. Like, masculinity is not something that is defined by violence. Even in the sense of, like, being a protector, it is not, it doesn't necessitate violence. And it especially doesn't necessitate, like, physical violence, especially killing.
there is a real appeal to that. Since discovering Grok AI, regular porn doesn't do it for me anymore. It just sounds absurd now. If I want a really specific person, yes. And then this guy chimed in. I like it a lot more because it's victimless, basically. It's practically guilt-free.
What?
In this sleazy world of real porn is tied to human trafficking, drug addiction, and exploitation. There's often that undercurrent of ick. How is it
That's
guilt-free when it's not
insane.
consensual? And there's such a thing as ethical, bro. Oh my god, pay for it. You don't want to be with a person, you want an object. You want a puppet that will obey your every whim.
Oh,
it's kind of
dude.
like we've become so used to
fucking mental
convenience and being
gymnastics.
catered to by technology all around us that we see humans as being inconvenient for the fact that they've got free will. And that is truly dystopian to me. And the whole, like, it's fake, so it's fine mindset is still really sticks around because people think that whatever happens online isn't real, which also really helps people to dehumanize each other a lot more, which only works better for billionaires and for the military-industrial complex and for allowing all of these atrocities by ICE, by the police, by so many forces to be able to actually brutalize people because you're like, it's just online, so it's fine. You're not actually dealing with it in real life. You get so used to dehumanizing people and to justify that dehumanization. And also, your fantasy football is fake, but that doesn't stop guys from breaking things if their player or team doesn't win. That also doesn't stop the domestic violence spikes that happen around sports games. Yeah, another grim truth for you there. Sure, AI is fake, but it's made up of real things. It's made up of real water that it requires so much of to be able to create all of this slop that we see around us. It's hiking the electricity bills of people who have the data centers put in their state. It's poisoning the places that people live in. It's all trained on real people, real art, real work that humans have made. And it has real world impacts on people. Because especially as the technology gets better, people are seeing these AI images as being real. This can go from something harmless like all those trampoline videos I'm sure you've seen, all the way to people's uncles trying to flirt with AI bots on Twitter. AI videos are also being used as propaganda by ICE to justify, again, the dehumanization of people by painting people as being violent when they're not. They're just existing. Just because something is, quote, fake doesn't mean it doesn't have real life impacts and cause real psychological damage. Adults and children have unalived themselves because of deepfakes. There are real world impacts to your actions, and trying to be like, oh, well, it's fake, so it doesn't matter. No, the stuff that happens online does matter. Just because you're not physically going up to someone, grabbing them and them, doesn't mean that the violence isn't still real. And it's a growing issue. Claire McGlynn, a law professor and expert in violence against women and girls from Durham University, says that she feared things would only get worse. OpenAI announced last November it was going to allow erotica in ChatGPT. What has happened on X shows that any new technology is used to abuse and harass women and girls. What is it that we're going to see then on ChatGPT? Women and girls are far more reluctant to use AI. This should be no surprise to any of us. Women don't see it as exciting new technology, but as simply new ways to harass and abuse us, to try and push us offline. And this is the thing, right? It's all done to make us feel not safe anywhere. Oh, you can't go outside because men will be violent towards you there. They'll blame you for whatever you're wearing. You're a victim even in your own home if you're in a relationship with a man because you were asking for it then. Well, you're asking for it if you post yourself online. You're asking for it if you have a job that is related to online at all. You're always asking for it rather than them being the perpetrators. The blame is always shifted onto the victim, and the whole point is to make us unsafe, to make us have less spaces to be, less spaces to actually exist and be safe, unless we are subjugated by another man. Telling women and girls that they're bringing it on themselves if they're participating in society is some real Handmaid's Tale bullshit. We see this happen.
And we were just talking about that earlier.
Pushes back or says no, the quick reaction is to degrade her, and this is able to happen so much faster thanks to the mainstreaming of it because of XAI. It's a humiliation thing. It's literally about the spectacle. It's about impressing other guys with the fact that you've been able to degrade someone so publicly with so little effort. You may be thinking this is just a woman's issue, but this is so much broader than just women. This applies to society as a whole, bro. Because this weaponization of AI is only going to get worse. Elon, the guy who can't control his chatbot from being anti-Semitic nor image generator and doesn't care if he breaks laws, now has a multi-million-dollar military contract with the US, a country which is terrorizing and its own citizens. That dehumanization of each other is the worst part because it's done through a screen. People think it's not real, that it doesn't have real life consequences, but it does. By not viewing each other as neighbors, as friends, as fellow human beings, this only serves billionaires better. This allows more atrocities to happen, and billionaires love it when we dehumanize each other and hate each other and blame each other. Elon replied to this tweet, "We're all slaves to the bottom 10% of society far more than we are to the top 1%.
What?
I'm tired of our country being held hostage by thugs." To which he replied with the bullseye emoji. If you gain nothing else in this video,
that's
what
fucking
Elon and
wild.
what all these other billionaires are doing is not for your benefit. Because you have like this fun little tool that you can do violent, evil things with, that doesn't mean that they're helping you in any way. That doesn't mean that your life is going to get better by you being violent towards others. Trust me, they do not care what happens to you. That's why they've invested so much in bunkers. That's why they're all here for like the acceleration of the demise of humanity. That's why you have Peter Thiel struggling with questions like this.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would
this is a long hesitation.
Bootlicking them does no good to you. The only solutions I really have to offer is to keep on putting pressure on your local government to actually do something about changing the laws.
I actually think it's worth saying that there is like this weird techno-religiosity that has been, like techno-idealism that has been spreading around places like Silicon Valley, where the definition of human is expanded to include things that are intelligent that are created by humans. So AI is technically in that wheelhouse, and so when they say they want humans to succeed and grow and expand, they're not necessarily talking about people. And in fact, a lot of like tech billionaires think that the extinction of humanity is not only inevitable but necessary. So that's worth thinking about.
Area. I have that study from 2021 from Europe.
I have a video I can pull up on that too, but I think after this video I'm pretty much wrapped for the day.
which is listed for you down below. It has everything that lawmakers could need to possibly make sense of all of this. And we actually do need lawmakers to have a backbone here and do something about it, because it's only going to continue to get worse. And guys, if you see your mates doing this sort of, please call them out for being the pathetic loser that they are. And I would implore you to have a chat with them and assess like why they think this is okay to do to begin with. And if it turns out that they're lonely, maybe be a bit of a better friend to them, and also ask them why they think it's okay to do this. And I don't mean in a performative public way, I mean like actually have a discussion with them one-on-one, like why they think it's okay to do this. And if they're like, well, I'm lonely, and there's nothing wrong with it, maybe having like a bit of a closer friendship with them and working with them to be like, hey, dehumanizing people won't make you any more successful in relationships, and creating a better bond with them will help them out of this loneliness spiral that keeps them stuck in the manosphere. That would be great if you could be involved in that way. I don't need like guys to go doing all of this performative bombastic. I need you to be involved like on a personal level with your bros. Because seriously, they're not going to listen to me. Like, do you know how many hate comments I get on this video all the time by any guy that comes across it? They hate me so very much. That's why I say like I really want guys to be like doing this work as well, because I'm mostly seeing women and girls being the ones talking about this and raising the alarm bells, and it shouldn't just be us.
And also tragically, like women and girls are not going to be listened to about their own things. It's the same thing that like trans people are less likely to be listened to and taken seriously about trans issues. Just because we are trans, but they'll be more likely to listen to somebody who's a cis person, especially a cis man, about these things, just because that's what like how people are tuned to listen in the patriarchy. It's just like the authority always lands in the hand of a cis man.
If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you so very much. I really do appreciate it. It makes a big difference on my YouTube reach. Do you remember 3 years ago when Elon Musk tweeted, "Should I step down as head of Twitter? I will abide by the results of this poll." And he got a majority vote of yes, and he still didn't step down. Wouldn't the world be a much nicer place if he actually stuck to his word? If you did make it all the way to the end of this video, you don't know what else to say, please leave the rocket emoji, because he owns SpaceX, right? And like, remember when he wanted to colonize Mars and was like really fixated on like going far away from here? I would love it if he would just like put all of his focus and all of his energy back onto that instead, because I think the world would be a lot happier for it. He can go be a sad, strange little man over there by himself. Thank you very much. Massive thank you to my patrons who are the ones that voted for this video topic, and especially to my top tier Trash Panda enablers: Alyssa, Anna, Anna Marie,
Alright, friends.
Caroline, and Vi.
Thank you so much for sticking with me on that. All of these are things that I am taking notes on, and just stuff I've been rotating in my head. We're working on essays. I have a lot of things that I've written and will continue to write. But for today, that is going to do it for us. I hope everybody's having a really good day. Happy Friday, happy weekend. Again, if you're somewhere near the polar storm, you know, take care of yourself. Try not to freeze. I know it's pretty fucking cold out there. But for now, let's see if we can find somebody to raid. How about... Yeah, no problem. Happy to jump in. We still need a Robin. I'll see. I'll shoot y'all over towards Robin. Alright, Mellows. It looks like she's playing Brawl. Go say hi for me. And, you know, keep your heads on your shoulders. Stay strong. Stay brave. I know things are a little bit scary out there, but I promise things will get better if we all stick together and we all work hard to make sure that the world is a good place. I love you all, and I hope to see you again soon. I'm probably going to be live again tomorrow, so I will see you then. Yeah, have a great day.